Hello and welcome to the Volunteer Firefighter Podcast. I'm here with two members of my fire family, Scott.
Hey.
And Ash.
This is Todd.
I'm Todd. Tonight we got a little bit of news. Scott, there was a Kelowna wildfire.
Yeah, so Kelowna is a city that's like an hour and a half drive from us, so I don't know how many kilometers that is. So it had its first kind of big, well, I guess it's like a bigger fire of the year because it's the first time evacuations happened this year.
Yeah.
So the fire happened on what's called Knox Mountain, which is right in the middle of there, right in the middle of the city, kind of surrounded by cities down below on one side, and then up high is the bunch of newer homes. Mm-hmm. So they evacuated 400 homes, and then put 450 on evacuation alert. So, wow, almost 1,000 altogether. It was a fairly small fire in the end. It was only like a 7-hectare fire, but in that kind of population, it's obviously concerning for everybody. Mm-hmm. And they had and that was also on Canada Day. They actually started the day before Canada Day or the morning of Canada Day. I think the morning of. So basically all the Canada Day celebrations were canceled for the evening, the fireworks, things like that, just because, right, shooting off fireworks while there's a wildfire burning in your town is probably not the celebrate more fire. So they canceled that, which is actually interesting because it was a windy night anyway. So a lot of the fireworks were canceled throughout the region anyways. But we had Canada Day. That's not really news, but what we went to your town?
Yeah, so again, not news, but it's always a good time. So Canada Day, every day we have a big Cherry Fest parade down in Osuias. And so the fire department, we always make some big cheesy parade car and pick a theme and get all dressed up for it. And
definitely was cheesy.
So our guys, we chose Super Troopers for the theme this year. So that was a blast. If you haven't seen Super Troopers, I highly recommend it.
Mm-hmm. I found it very offensive.
But it was a lot of fun. So it's a huge water fight. So we have a big water tank in our truck as well for it, with a bunch of hoses. And then we run our tender behind us to refill because we ended up going through a ton of water. We asked you guys to come down with your side-by-side, same as last year.
Which does not have a ton of water in it.
No.
30 old gallons.
And then the adjacent department, Annex Mountain, comes down as well and joins the water fight. And everybody puts their trucks. We put as many trucks as we can in as well, and it's a good time. It's one hell of a water fight.
Yeah, and there's essentially 2 rounds of the water fight. Like there's one we roll through first, and
we open up the parade. We start the water fight first, and it was a nice 35 degrees.
Yeah,
day, so it was smoking hot. The guys did really well at conserving water in the beginning, and then the water fight hit pretty hard. We had to refill mid-route. Yeah, and then we closed the parade with a final water fight as well. Yeah. But man, they were ready for us this year.
I think some people honestly just were running straight ice water into those squirt guns. Like Ashley got blasted with a couple. I'm like, wow, what are they using?
But it was a hot day already. But yeah, it was cold.
Like our water was pretty warm because it was obviously coming to your guys' tender, which is sitting in the hall for a while. So it was like, we're pretty nice. These people, they were coming around in coolers, which I'm sure there's ice floating in there. Like.
Well, they were hot and ready for us, man. They were
just water balloons, elevated positions, and box canyon ambush we were in.
Jesus. Yeah, and some of those kids had an arm, man.
Holy, did they ever?
Cow, I got nutted once and still put me down.
Well, we were wearing our helmets because of the side by side. That's our policy. So we had our helmets on, and then I had one of my little guy with me, so he was behind, but so he's sitting a little lower. And then Logan, one of our members, is sitting next to him, and because right was lower, the water balloon went over his head, being Logan right in the cheek. He's like, "Oh!" It's like, "Oh, that almost knocked me out." Wow. Yeah, it's pretty hard.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. We always have a blast, and pretty much everybody that goes to that parade knows there's going to be water.
Yep.
So there's supposed to be this little water zone down kind of midway, and then kind of a secondary one, but there's no holds barred. Like as soon as people start spraying the water, game on. Yeah, you're on. We do our best not to spray everybody unless they ask.
Yeah, some people are like this,
but some people, there's a little bit of crossfire happens. And it's like any parade for people, you get the odd complaint.
Yeah. Oh, you guys get some.
Oh yeah, we get complaints.
My phone,
I got wet. It's like, well, it's 35 degrees.
Yeah.
Suck it. You're gonna dry in
Yeah.
Minutes.
Anyways, it's a blast, and thank you guys for coming down.
Yeah, and our
That's
pump,
great.
our pump on our side by side, it runs. There's a button on the dashboard, so it's on demand electric. So Ash and I could turn it off for the guys back there because we're like, if they're going to those muddy, because they're like into it. So it's like it's actually like a detachment thing, right? Because I can see like I'm looking ahead and I can see some ladies like, yeah. So as the hose gets, I'm like, turn the pump off. It's like,
We should probably do that to our guy.
yeah, you should have master control.
Absolutely.
Yeah, some of your guys were like, we were trying to refill the water. They're like straight streaming us in the face.
Yeah, there's a lot of friendly fire happens.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, your chief was getting sprayed
Yeah,
at the
everybody's
fire hall.
Oh yes, yeah,
We got some new decals on our truck,
Yeah.
or on our side by side,
yeah.
from your department. So,
Mhm.
and which ties us in tonight. Thank God we had those decals because it allowed us to come down into your territory, possibly for the call that we had today.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we can jump into that. So today,
Yeah, exactly.
today we had a chlorine leak response, and there's a few pump houses that are run by the town, but then we also have one up on the East Bench where I live, which is run from a different society. So that one had a leak today, and it's pretty concerning anytime you get any chlorine leak, of course. However, that one, where it is down on Lakeshore Drive, and it's very populated area, very busy area of everybody walking and running, enjoying it. The beaches are right there, and we got a massive resort right next to it as well.
August, it's July long weekend, right?
July long weekend, yeah. There's people everywhere. So mid morning, we get this call for it, and so I arrived in the first due engine. So I took up IC. As we're driving to it, as anybody that's ever been in that type of role, like there's a lot of things going through your head at first. Wind direction was one of them. We had a very strong wind pushing from the north. So that aided in our response where we were coming. But then, of course, it has additional concerns of where that downwind zone is. That downwind zone was right towards the campsites and houses and right next to the resort where there's like 500 people staying.
Yeah.
So pretty concerning. Like anything on any fire scene, you start creating your isolation zone and blocking traffic, and half of them listen and the other half don't. People trying to drive around cones and drive around the truck, arguing with you. Well, I need to get down there. I live right there. It's like, no, we have an incident. Just please wait. Then you get the runners and bicyclists running right past all the cones.
And all the chlorine in the water, that's always good for you.
Yeah.
Really refreshing.
So pretty frustrating.
Responsible to moisture,
Right? Yeah. Yeah, pretty frustrating to deal with that for the first few minutes, but we were able to contain that. Then I called for our second engine to approach up and around. They have a very good access road to come up around and be quite a distance away and block traffic and divert. And then they started setting up a shelter-in-place order for the adjacent residences and the resort.
Right.
So that worked out well. While they were doing that, we started calling in other resources, RCMP to assist, and ambulance as well for our staging point. And because of just the day and our response, we didn't have a whole ton of people if it went catastrophic. So we ended up calling mutual aid. So we called the mutual aid fairly early on with you guys. During that time, I was able to send our first team in and get eyes on it and figure out what was actually leaking. They were able to isolate it very rapidly and safely. So a very small pump house with the chlorine cylinders in it. They were able to shut the valves down and contain it, and saw the pressure gauges dropping very rapidly. So that was good. So we were able to mitigate that. Once we did our kind of secondary into it and made sure we had no readings, that's when I was able to cancel you guys.
Right.
But again, with the mutual aid stuff, call early. It's going to take you a bit to mobilize to come down.
Yeah.
So start that response early. And then, of course, we can stand down if needed.
Yeah.
But huge potential.
Oh, for sure it is. Right. Yeah. And just like you say, like we're at the best of times 20 minutes away.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's, if traffic listens, if we have a team close by that can respond quickly, which I think we got, like your guys' truck was out pretty fast.
Yeah. And I think when you get those unique calls, you get guys coming faster because they're like, "What is this all? What's this all about?" Because it's like you see mutual aid. Anytime you hear mutual aid, we all want to go dip into someone else's territory and do some stuff. So we always get lots of response. And then this one was like literally we asked like, "What are you guys requesting?" They said like basically like everyone, like everything you have.
Yeah.
Oh, so okay, so we just we sent everything. Well, everything that everybody that showed up basically we sent.
Yeah.
Three vehicles. One like the officer truck, and then engine, and then our bush truck. And we had almost enough SCBA for everybody. If we had to go work in the warm zone or hot zone with you guys, or establish RIT for you guys, we had all that ready. But then we also had some guys that could just do traffic or go do the longer distance out in the full zone shelter place area. So,
yeah, and that's always it's always such a dynamic scene, and everything happens so fast. But any sort of hazmat situation, we all obviously slow it right down.
Yeah.
Right. So we did our best to slow things down, but it still feels like things are firing fast.
Yeah.
And when you start thinking about, okay, well, we're getting strong chlorine odor down by the resort. So right away, we're thinking, all right, well, where's the air intakes to that building? What do we need to evacuate? Is the shelter-in-place order going to be effective, or do we need to actually move them at this point, or maybe move them from the basement floors upstairs? Do we need to ventilate now the parkade underneath? Like, there's all these things going through the mind.
Yeah.
So thankfully, actually, it worked out really well. My chief, he was the officer in the other engine, stage south of us. So he dealt with that area. And it worked out really good for what it could have been.
Mm-hmm.
But because so basically just to give you a snapshot of that picture. So remember your chlorine. So it's 457 times expansion ratio, right? And your ideal H is 10 parts per million. And then your vapor density is 2.48, 2.5. So it's going to be heavier than air. So all those low-lying areas, the pump house is right next to the lake as well. You could run along the edge of the lake down to the beach, which was a concern. And by one of the docks, where potentially one of the other boat operators that does rentals, they come there a lot. And then our protective distance for that time of day, the strong wind we had, and just the location of the follow zone was about 0.8 kilometers. So pretty large distance, right?
Yeah.
And your real estate being the small little lakeshore drive where we were, you're supposed to be setting up your isolation zone kind of minimum 100 meters to 150 meters. That's very challenging as well.
Sure.
So it's there's a lot of stuff to be thinking about as you approach. But it worked out well. Everybody did really good. We had a few of our members that were on my truck, all part of our chlorine response team as well. So they're pretty dialed and ready to go for it. So it worked out good.
Nice.
Sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were pretty. I mean, obviously, got turned around, but it was pretty interesting because anytime you get mutual aids,
you kind of want to step it up a little bit, right?
And of course, this was a unique one because we had one of our newer guys like, "Sort of, what are we doing when we get there?" I'm like, "Oh yeah," I'm like, "We'll find out when we get there." I mean, we had plans. Like, I quickly looked at my ERG app on my phone as we're driving, and I'm looking at the same type of stuff you're looking at, like the isolation zones. And one of the guys behind me was Matt, who's our paramedic. So he was thinking of some stuff for that, like inhalation injuries, all that kind of stuff. So
absolutely,
work on that telemetry stuff.
And that's good. That's what we need to be doing, right? Like, and that's what I really preach to all of our guys in that truck. Have those conversations. Your task may change when you arrive, but already have an idea of, okay, if I'm the third truck or second truck, what I may be doing. Look at those other injuries. If we have people that are now affected by it, what are the treatments? What do we need to do? Do we need to wash down? What do we need to do? Resuscitating, right? There's all these things going through your head.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we were doing similar things in the bush truck. Hit the map, had a quick overview of the area again, seeing like, oh yeah, no, this is going to be challenging. And I was trying to picture off memory prior to that if we were past the no egress. Mm-hmm. So like the one way in, one way out, but there was the like you can come down.
There's side streets.
Yeah. So there is still access there, so that's good. So again, and that was it. Like what are we going to do? Like, we have no idea. Let's just get ourselves there. We'll go have a quick face if we can. Or again, you might tell us to go to the other side and go and respond to the other unit and task up with them or whatever it is. But
Absolutely.
yeah, just being all prepared. Thinking like just as the first engine was leaving, so they've got 3 SCBAs across the back, 1 on the officer seat, and we have a spare in the back. We have 2 in the bush truck. So with the people that we had responding, we put SCBA up, I think all 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was able to like fold in and work.
Absolutely.
Which is key. You want to make sure that you're all prepared to work.
Yeah, and that was part of the thing going through my head. I had a few moments of some downtime once the team was kind of going in their secondary and stuff was, okay, once I get into radio comms with you guys, if we still need you, I was probably going to find out what you had.
Yeah.
And then probably meet me by the command post area. And then afterward, the event, you guys mentioned you had a couple trucks coming, so that was perfect. So then at that point, I would have got that information and probably tasked the other guys down to that south area. We probably had kind of 2 staging zones at that point, just because our access and egress road.
That's right.
It's challenging. So
yeah, and we sent the engine because we're obviously the SCBA and we were sure, and then the 2 kind of the bush truck and the officer truck, they're quick, right? So they can bomb around and do those evacuation orders faster than an engine, like driving up and 4 guys peeling off. You can put like 1 guy, 1 driver, 1 passenger in each one of those and just drive around.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's all these little things you think about too, right? Like, okay, like how are we going to communicate to people? Are we going to use some bullhorn marshalling techniques? Because that, of course, everybody's curious, so they start popping up.
What's happened, right?
So make your footprint as large as you can, and then you can scale it down after. It's very challenging. But and then actually
sorry, did you guys social media that at all? Did you say, hey, stay away from Yeah. That's one thing I think we're getting better at is like what I always notice is if one of us is not, like, say if I'm working and I know what's happening, but I know everyone's working, but like Rob, our guy that usually does that, so I'll jump on Facebook or whatever, be like, hey, we have an incident happen in this location. Don't please stay clear from here.
Yeah.
So I find that helps. Like,
it does. Yeah.
Because I think at first we thought, oh, that means we're just going to have people coming to watch. But I think over time, people are like, oh, actually, this is good. We'll stay away.
I think definitely locals do.
Yeah.
Trying to put that into that particular event would have been challenging because it was all tourist traffic.
Right.
For sure.
Like that particular moment was hard, but there's definitely merit to that. I think that works well. Yeah.
Plus all the extra thoughts and prayers that come along.
But I that thing we have, that emergency broadcast for the province.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if they could. I mean, I guess we have one locally in town. That we have it's like an alert thing. None of us obviously are. It's kind of funny because any of us are able to access it.
Right.
So we have to call somebody, and then they have to broadcast it. So it's like, well, that really delays. Like, we should have a designated like Rob.
Yeah.
He's our PR guy. It would always be nice to have him designated as that local resource. He should have the access to that emergency alert from the city.
For something like that event.
Yeah, and then he can just jump on. Boom, and then they know it came from him only because he's the one with the password.
Yeah.
So then if he gives wrong information, they can be like, hey man, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But these things to think about.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And there's been many other tabletops I've been involved in with the border and stuff as well, and that always comes up. Is okay. What are our mass scale evacuation orders? On phones and stuff, and that comes from PEP.
Yeah.
Right in our area.
Yeah.
It takes a while.
Yeah.
But then, of course, you do the emergency contact info to the person who's supposed to be in charge of that, and nobody answers.
Yeah.
So we need a better system in place. Yeah. But then just quickly back to some of the actual response for the team going in. So small building, door was open, the ventilation fan, everything was working, so it was doing its job. But obviously, you could use a hose line. Fog pattern to help control it well if you need it. And then PPV. We used the PPV at that point. We didn't see any clouds when we approached. There's no yellowish green cloud. There's no, other things you look for is some of the greenery growth is dying off or burning, right? Or not burning on fire, but
withering.
Browning, withering, and or any dead birds and animals and stuff like that, right? But there was no clouds or anything obvious. So right away, as soon as we approached, I was like, oh, okay. take a deep breath. You can scale that down.
Well, don't
already.
take too deep a breath.
Right.
Somebody responsible.
Yeah. How long can you hold your breath? Remember, it expands 457 times. Yeah. But yeah, it went well. Yeah, kudos to everybody.
Yeah,
Sweet.
nice.
Moving on. So your guys' training event, Scott.
Yeah.
You guys did a scenario-based one on the coattails of last week's preamble for Rescue Task Force and Asher events.
Yeah, so it feels like sometimes we're beating this to death, but I think it's something that, again, we're pushing hard on. So last week we did a PowerPoint on the Asher, so on the active shooter hostile event response. Did the full PowerPoint, basically what the same thing I did at seminar, and then you actually came along too. And so we kind of team built it as it was active shooter event response, and then the tourniquet application.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't do the full stop the bleed course because in an Asher, when we're out there, when we're in the scenario itself, or when we're in the scene itself, there's no time to be wound packing and direct pressure. It's just all like tourniquet or out. Yeah. Or both, or all, like get them out. So we aim for that. So this week, we did a scenario. It wasn't really, it wasn't come from the whole page out scenario. It was like, I said, okay, we're going to muster at this location, which is one of our old government buildings. It's still an active government building, but it's half of it's empty. We actually use it in our training for my other job. For the sheriffs, we use it and we train in it all the time. So we got permission from the provincial government to use it. Posted on Facebook that we're having this event. Talked to all the authorities, like talk to the police, talk to the ambulance service. Actually, talk to so everyone's aware. Well, mostly everybody's aware. Of course, at the end of the scenario, and before I talk about the scenario, at the end of the scenario, of course, the police cruiser pulls up. I'm like, oh, the police are finally here, because they were supposed to come, but they were really busy. And the one officer gets out, and he kind of has a scowl on his face. And he's like, "Hey," he's like, "We just got a call for this. Like, we had a call that there was a shooting going on. There was people screaming, and there's body bags." I'm like, I kind of laughed because I'm like, yeah, I guess because we had quick letters out, so it looked like body bags. And I said, "Well," I said, didn't your commander tell you that we were doing this?" He's like, "No." He's like, "He did not." I said, "Well, he should have messaged you." He's like, "He did not." And he pulls his phone. He's like, "I've been really busy." So I was like, "Ah." And he's like, "Yeah, I did see it." He goes, "Ah, but I figured when I drove up." He goes, "I saw you guys all parked here." And then we have signs up. We have big signs, like big sandwich boards that say "Fire Training in Progress." Because this was definitely inside, outside. People were walking their dogs and so like what is going on there? Because we had
screening,
yeah,
actors' mattresses,
like to bring it down to the actual scenario. So we staged in the post office parking lot. So I got the rescues truck to come in. We had a real quick briefing, kind of a recap of the previous week. Had a bunch of law enforcement there. I think it's 6 or 7 there with rubber guns and no live anything. So no live pepper spray, nothing. So nothing could go so no one could actually do something. Then we had 10 like live role players playing victims, all like kids. So I said, okay, this is not a government building, this is a school. And basically it's a school shooting, which kind of puts everything in perspective. I said it was an office building. People are like, but you said it's a school shooting and all these kids are there. Because they were younger. Like they were high school age, but young high school. They're actually from the local ambassador program. So it's kind of like we teach them and they help us do stuff. So
absolutely.
It was great having them there. Because we always notice you use dummies.
Realism, man.
Yeah, if you use
There's nothing.
Because guys treat dummies like different. Or if you use a live role players for like firefighters, or guys are like
patient care is even worse.
Yeah, it's even worse. So like, just kick them in the face, whatever. like they're joking, but you're also like, oh, okay, you're taking a realism of this.
Yeah.
So I briefed the role players, and what I did, I have the little flashcards like I had at seminar. Essentially, they're just little cards I made up, and it says like red, gunshot wound to chest, red gunshot wound to neck, red, and then yellow, gunshot wound to right arm, controlled but with tourniquet, right, gunshot wound to left leg, controlled with tourniquet, blah. And then green, one was green, shot in the hand. On any other day, a shot in the hand would be like, whoa, my God, you're shot in the hand. Like it would be like I said, no, not in this scenario. That's a green because there's no massive bleeding, they literally go like that and walk out.
Usually controlled,
And they
so-
get put over. Yeah. So, and then there's the black, so the expectant, which is anything shot in the cranium, right? Cranium unconscious. So I kept it like mostly yellows and reds because there was a kind of a method to what we were doing for training wise. There was only like one person in the black and one green.
Right.
So for the triage tarps, so we laid out the tarps, and then we actually have a first responder program going on right now. We're teaching some of our newer people first responder, and some of our senior people, we're teaching them the next level, some of the EMR course, so basically the next level from first responder. So I tied it in with our instructor, who's also one of our members, and we tied in triaging night to their training. Mm-hmm. So basically, their job was to run the tarps. So when the Rescue Task Force brought the patients over, their job was to run the tarps and manage the patients as they arrived on these tarps. So they got literally, like, basically those little flashcards are used again, and our FR instructor Carrie, she could look at what was wrong with them, and then she would have to quickly like kind of come up with like what their blood pressure would be, what their respirations would be. So now it's not really triage anymore. Now it's actual treatment. Yeah. And then eventually they have to do a handoff to the ambulance when it arrives. Again, the ambulance is tied up, so we didn't have an actual ambulance show up, but it would have been handoff to the ambulance, so they had to hand off to her, say what was wrong. And in a real situation, like I said to them, real situation, we would have one person in charge of doing that. It wouldn't be like, you give the handoff, you give the handoff. We would have like we did it when we did with Dr. Nick there, when you were my triage tarp guy. I think it was you, yeah. And you just did the handoff, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you do. You'll have your triage team leader and then your treatment team leader, transport team leader.
Yeah. So they're dialed, right? This is a little more because we wanted those guys to do their handoffs. Yeah. So then what we had 5 sets of body armor for the people going in, for the firefighters going in, and then we had groups of law enforcement. So it was they'd go in, one law enforcement in the front. First team in was 3 stack of firefighters, and then law enforcement in the rear. Kind of the idea is the first team in, since it's a 3 stack, one of them is kind of the officer. So his job is to triage if they're. At first, it was going to be triage everybody, but then with that building, it's so spread out. It's like we're just grabbing the first patients they see,
right?
Unless they're in a group of like 2 or 3, then you have to do quick triage. So that guy would be like either an officer or a senior medic, and he was quickly doing the triaging and saying these people move first. And it was good having him there too, because he could be the like for those walking wounded, and even the yellows, the shot in the arms, they're walking wounded. Like they tourniquet them quick. Well, those people can walk. And meanwhile, the other firefighters are tied up holding the quick litters. Yeah. So a couple times I saw, I think 3 patients come out with one group.
Nice. Yeah.
So it was law enforcement in the front, 3 firefighters carrying patient and walking with 2 patients, and then one other law enforcement in the rear. And this team would come out. So that's pretty cool. And then we had the law enforcement guys doing. They were doing actual room clearing with their rubber gun. So as they come around, they'd room clear as though they would. So it was good for the fire, for our guys to hear, because at first everyone's kind of, it's one of those scenario nights, and it's really hot out, and we didn't even make them wear, like, we were kind of like, normally we'd be in our full first responder gear, and like some guys have on their full forestry. Forestry shirts becoming not just forestry shirts anymore; they're just becoming like a general PPE for like another stage of PPE, right? Because they're long sleeve, bright yellow. They stand really well.
Yep.
But it's so hot, so we just said, just wear your t-shirt, whatever t-shirt you're wearing. Wear your t-shirt. If you want to wear turnout pants, or wear your first responder pants. I prefer turnout pants just because you kneel on shell casings, broken glass. Right. Blood, you're kneeling on all that stuff.
It's just an extra layer of protection for you.
Yeah, so, but in this case, we were kind of like a mismatch. And I always find when we kind of mismatch, guys are kind of like, right away, they're kind of like, the scenario is a little bit of a cluster. So we're putting our body armor on the guys, and they're like, it's kind of cool. And they're putting everything on, and then literally as soon as they walk into the building, it's like I have a stereo blast, and some guy going, all the actresses or actors are screaming. They're like, and then we have some old smoke alarms we were trying to set off, so they was like ringing, and then we had the law enforcement yelling, like they're like yelling blue on blue, they're yelling all this stuff, move, like they're, and then all of a sudden, holy crap, this is like actually a thing. So then it was like, I think that ramped the
Absolutely.
energy level got ramped way up.
Yeah, totally.
And then they started just moving patients out. So we did one scenario all inside the building, all shooting patients, took them all out, had a debrief on that.
Yep.
And then the second scenario where it was actually the guy ran over 3 of them outside and then ran in and shot up the place. So
Okay.
like ran down 3 students outside the school and then ran inside and shot some more. So, and the bad guy was actually my son. So he was, it was interesting to see because the first scenario, he happened to be the first patient they came across and they kind of got bogged down with him because they're like, okay, well, help him. Well, there's a law enforcement guy with his gun out over him. He's handcuffed and they're like, so they're helping him. And then he comes out and now we're like, okay, well, he can't go to the triaging tarps because he just shot these people. We're not going to put him with him. So he had to stay over here. And then we had to have overwatch with him. It was kind of one of those things like that priority of rescue is should he be coming out even first? Like even if he was a red, so it's a little bit tricky, right? Because he in priority rescue, trooper, like in the triaging, he should be coming out first,
right?
But priority rescue, he's the one that put himself in that situation. So we should be treating the other people first. So it's like we treat ourselves, we treat the partners or other agencies, and then we treat the civilians that are like innocent, and then we get to him.
Right.
It was weird because technically that's also the hot zone because he hasn't been fully searched. He's just been handcuffed. Yeah. So he's still the hot zone. So our guys are kind of working with him. I'm like, I kind of let it ride first, and then they got him out, and they kind of realized, okay, now we have to have people with him, and so the second scenario we left him inside. Yeah, he was the last one to come out.
Nice.
Yeah.
And even on our scenario for the second one, there was patients that were in his room, like it was the actual courtroom.
Yeah.
And he was all the way up by like what would have been the judge's stand.
Yeah.
And there was 2 patients right at the entrance to the room. So we actually bumped in. There was one of your members was posted on the shooter, and then the other 2 went in and like basically had him blocked. We did a quick grab, got out of the room, and I think we even went on to clear 2 other rooms and then came back for him, which was good. I know we were chatting afterwards about like potentially having law enforcement even drag the people out.
Yeah.
In that scenario, even like it was ramped up, we were taking it pretty serious. He was in cuffs at the time, was substantially like far away. There was somebody on him, and then we had 2 with us. Like it was safe, but
it's like truly we're supposed to establish a hot zone, so that would be the hot zone.
Yeah,
but also at the same time we can use our logic. Like you said, he's handcuffed. Maybe he hasn't been searched. He's handcuffed. He's got lethal overwatch which means someone with a gun overwatching him. His hands are not accessible to weapons. The weapons we could see at least 2 weapons on the ground. He may still have access to his stomach or whatever. He may have a suicide vest on. Like that's all like pretty low level it's high level. It'd be very high acuity but low occurrence, right? So So it was good. Like you guys quickly pulled those patients. You just grabbed them, drug them out, and then did your treatments outside. Mm-hmm. So I think that was acceptable. But again, first time through, major learning curves, learning experiences.
Yeah.
It was interesting having the outside because it was outside. Patients were all ped struck basically.
Right.
So they don't have gunshot wounds. They're just they're getting treated as ped struck. But it was ped struck without you're not going to be like, okay, we're going to sit here, hold C-spine.
You're still an MCI.
Yeah, they're still MCI. So it's like, okay, technically we should be calling him and all this, but it's like, no, put them on the quick litter. So they're rolling pretty nice. They roll in the quick litter. One was leg was all mangled. So Rob literally did the old
fireman carry,
an actual fireman's carry, which I've never actually seen a patient. So he actually fireman's because they were smaller, younger children. So he fireman's carries this one and just walks away. I'm like, well, that's one way to do it.
Yeah, it was sweet. He asked me because I was the officer on the second scenario, so I'm walking up with my 3, and then the second team's coming up. So we were going in first. We got to the car with the 3 patients that were struck, and we were overrun. There was more patients than we could deal with. So I go and look at all of them first. I do a quick 360 around the car. once the officers cleared it safe to approach the vehicle, I did a quick look. There was one that was like semi-pinned under, bleeding from the head. Still alert and chatty. I was like, okay, good. So you're okay. Didn't quite get too in depth yet. Kept going around. I wanted to get the full snapshot of all three of the patients. One of them was actually like driven over. So I'm okay, like, you are pinned. That's going to be bad. And then the third one was just kind of laying off. So I'm like, okay, last, second, first. So we made our call. We had two of them, so we were getting the first out onto the litter. The second team was approaching before we even got to the building. I'm like, hey, if we get you guys over here, you guys could grab the second patient. And then Rob's like, hey, if you guys grab that, if they grab that, I'm just going to grab. I'm like, yeah, let's go. So they were gone. I helped get the other patient out. And by that time, the first team was coming back. So then I tagged back in with them and we went inside. So a lot happened very quickly with the first three patients. And all of them needed like pretty high level of care.
It's funny too, because I said to Rob, hey, just shoulder them. And I meant like shoulder them, like, when you put your arm on someone, like when they twist their ankle and you're like carrying them off the field, like a soccer player. So I didn't mean like shoulder them, but I was like, well, okay, yeah, that works too. What you did, that was definitely shouldering them. So
he asked, he's like, do you think I can I'm like, yeah, like if you're okay with it. He's like, oh yeah. Like, there. Like, she was pretty smaller frame.
Yeah.
Straight over and gone. It was awesome.
And we actually employed it's not truly in training, but we employed like the lukewarm zone, which I've been kind of nicknaming it, because really in these scenarios, or in these incidents, like, we know most of, it's 90% of them are going to be single shooters. So we know if the law enforcement's got the one person down on the ground, and we hear it over the radio. We had our radios running, but I was also like, the law enforcement guys were on a different channel, so I was just like, hey, just let you guys, I'd go to Ash or whoever, I'm like, hey, just let you know there's the shooters went inside the building, because when it first came in, the second call was actually just a ped struck, multiple people struck with a car. So as they're out there dealing with the ped struck, then it's like, oh, and the shooters, and there's a guy who went inside, and the driver went inside and shot up the place too. So now it's like, okay, there's multiple patients inside. Rather than making the rescue task force guys, because they're wearing the heavy armor, they're carrying these people long distances to get to the ambulance extraction point or the casualty collection point. We had what we were nicknaming the lukewarm zone, where we had like lots of firefighters just standing there that can lift heavy things. They don't necessarily have armor, but they're way far enough away from the hot zone and the warm zone that they can move these patients. Now they can take over for the rescue task force. So they were doing like a handoff. They're like, here you go. And then they're coming back, which makes me started thinking, okay, every rescue task force probably should have 2 quick litters. Because one thing we did was run it, because we hand the quick litter off, and then the rescue task force now coming back with no quick litter.
They don't have one.
So in the Asher bag, we're going to make some two quick litters, or have those guys that are in the warm zone have like the clamshells and stuff to carry people with. Right? Which we had sitting there. They just, no one really grabbed any. And I was kind of leaving that up to people to figure out, because a lot of it was I was just me testing. Like, some of the stuff's theory, right? So I'm like, okay, I want to see how this plays out. Like, let's see where this goes. Let's see where this plays out. Because even the law enforcement, they were like, I'm not used to having these people with me. They're used to like going in a team and going by themselves, or not by themselves, like with a team of other people with guns. But now they basically are, I don't want to say babysitting, but they basically basically have 2 other people with them that
are responsible for 2 or 3 other people's lives that are going to be attached to them now.
So that whole like snake is now like longer, and they have to bump up to clear corners and clear rooms. And it was like a little dance was going on, and but lots of communication, lots of face to face, lots of like, there's no like clearing rooms, like everyone's like yelling, and it was perfect.
It was like your guys would say when they would clear something, and like I know that our guys can hear him, but I'm still going to relay everything that he's saying back to his or her partner. So I'm going to say that back to our team. So everybody's on the same page. Everybody's hearing it. They know that I have now heard it. So, I mean, we always practice that, and we, preach the hell out of it, that if you hear something, you say it back so everybody knows that you've heard it. So like, you might hear a command or whatever it was 2 or 3 times. But like Scott says, when that snake is now from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, it can start to get pretty long. There's a lot happening. There was screaming, there was shit everywhere. Yeah, it was good to make sure the comms were being relayed over.
Yeah.
We didn't use radios basically at all, except for on the second scenario when we were coming out of the basement. So the second scenario stated that, hey, we're going to be up here, and then now we're going in the front door. So everything was coming in and out of the main door, where the first scenario was the basement.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we know the building. There's an exit right out this way. So instead of going all the way back up the stairs with the patients, well, we made the call. Let's just go right out the door. So I hopped on the radio. I'm like, rescue team coming out with 2 out of the basement door.
Yep.
And then Speedy relayed that back. Yeah, copy out of the basement door.
Which is perfect, because that would relay back to if we truly had set up a law enforcement. Because I was supposed to be kind of like the commander of the law enforcement side,
Right.
but I was walking around also making sure the scenario was running smoothly. So I wasn't with the IC, like,
yeah,
being
Yeah,
realistic.
truly
It would
unified,
be,
yeah.
yeah, it would be unified. So, but because of that, like, I could hear them over the, because I had a fire radio with me, so I could hear them say that. I was like, well, that's perfect, because in reality, if everybody's going through this one door and all of a sudden this bottom door bursts open and a bunch of people run out and guys are in armor, it's like there's potential of a blue on blue shooting happening. Right? So, but we had a way we knew, okay, they're kind of coming out the bottom door.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I was thinking about the roles as well, and being the team lead or the officer, whatever in that scenario. Like, I helped carry one patient out, but a lot of what I was doing, I chatted with Russo after, was a lot of the prep work. And I think, like, we in that scenario might be the best people to have on, like, our pack.
Yeah.
Because now, like, hey, all right, you guys this.
Yeah.
Like, I would drop down, I would help package. So we actually had 2 rooms opposite sides of the hallway with a patient in each. So seeing what this one was, I'm like, hey, that's going to be priority. Yeah. So it was myself and one other person. So I says, hey, let's get this girl packaged. So we packaged them, and as we were getting lifted up, a second team was coming back in. So we actually split up our teams. And like, here, you guys go. We're going to bump down to the next room.
Right.
So like every time that we got to a patient, 2 on that one, like 2 went to the priority. I went to the next one. I started a package with that person, boom, and we just kind of bumped back and forth, and it was working really fast.
Yeah,
nice.
For such, that's a big building. It's a lot to clear, and then you look at what that would mean to the school, and that's like just tip of the iceberg size-wise, right?
Yeah, so it's gonna take a lot more time.
Yeah,
but then you take that Rescue Task Force out of there. And then you take a lot of those law enforcement members out there, or you leave the law enforcement members in, and then now you have 6 law enforcement in there trying to hold cover while they're also trying to move patients. It's like, well, it took us 10 or 15 minutes to clear the buildings of 10 patients. Mm-hmm. It would take like exponential amount of time because they don't have gear, like they have a couple tourniquets on them, but it would just take forever to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that nails it, right? Like, that's why the importance of having a rescue task force is so important. You start talking about loss of life or prevention of life for that, because if not, we're staged well away, both of us, right? Ambulance and fire, until we're told to go in, and then now you're not dealing with a small, simple tourniquet injury, probably somebody who's unresponsive from a massive hemorrhage.
Yeah,
right.
So, yeah, that sounds like one hell of an event.
That was, and of course, like, we're outside and people are walking their dogs. And like, it was definitely, I could see why people would call.
Yeah,
but again, good. That means we're doing the right thing because we're making the scenarios look realistic.
Oh yeah, yeah. Realism was great. Awesome feedback. I talked to one of the people's parents on Friday, and like they were just ecstatic. They're like, yeah, like the kids loved it.
When they first get there, they don't know what they got told they were coming as like victims for the fire department. So they're thinking like, oh, car accident or So I'm like, okay, so you guys know why you're here? They're like, no. I'm like, okay. So tonight that's a school, and you guys are in a school shooting. They're like, oh. I was like, not realistic. Like, but I'm like, this is what it's for. And so then by the end they got it, which is actually cool because you and I are teaching them this week. We're teaching them stop the bleed and active shooter response as a civilian. So actually it'll really tie it together for them.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
To move that up. Maybe that'll have to be how we train that. If we're gonna do annual rescue task force every year, we train it annually to have it coincide with when they teach those guys their stop the bleeding.
Yes,
Yeah.
Because then they at least now they have a frame of reference of why this is happening to them.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that we have to touch on every year for sure, and then just keep that thought process fresh, right?
Yeah.
But doing that kind of a scenario brings such value, so it's good.
Awesome. Any more on any other topics? I think that's it.
No, we had like you guys had a crazy call, but we had a hell of a long. Well, we were at your house and like all day. It's like,
oh, that's right.
Like I think we had 9 calls in 24 hours or something.
Yes.
It's like, and it was a mixed bag. It was like 2 accidents. The dump was on fire again. Dump was on fire again. There was 2 dump fires. Same fire.
Like a burning complaint to
almost a structure fire.
The structure fire central there.
Yeah.
We've got this one property that's changed hands a couple times, but for whatever reason fires keep finding it.
There's been 4 or 5 fires in this one place.
What could have been something really bad started off small. The guys got there pretty quick and made pretty fast work of it, but pretty large potential for like a fifth wheel style fire.
Yeah,
which as soon as they start it's over. So awesome.
The dump fire was it gets you going a little bit because you hear it's a dump and you're like, the dump, and then as you're coming up the hill you can see the glow, and even the guy from the dump from your area, so he can see it from his house. And he told me, he's like, I thought the whole place was going up. He was actually, I thought the mountain was going up because, it's right next to the mountain, a lot of dry grass. A lot of heat coming off that thing. That pile was hot. There's a big pile of tires right near it. It's like, there's a lot of potential on that one.
Yes.
Like with wind blowing and it's like.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's the other thing. The call volume was high this weekend for everybody. And then the winds too. Like if there's any large other fires, it could have been very challenging.
Yeah. And we're in danger right
very
now.
Strong winds.
Of 5 out of 5 right now. So
we are, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys definitely wrecked in the calls there yesterday.
Well, we didn't wreck any because we were.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was joking. I says, if I had a drink every time that we had a fire call, I'd be blackout.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. All right. Well, let's move on to some shout outs.
Yep.
So quick reminder just about our shirts as well.
Yeah.
If you want to get our GTFF Moose shirts.
Mm-hmm.
Do a little
60.
Yeah, there we go. Moose shirts. You can check them out online on our Facebook. We've got some photos on Instagram. And the email for that is gtffstore@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
So give that email if you're interested in a shirt. And we're shipping everywhere right now, so we are good to go.
We had a sighting at in Ontario or something. Someone said Kevin DeVries sent us a picture of him at was it the fire?
Yeah, it was
Firefighter.
There, yeah. So thanks a lot for sharing that, man.
Yeah, it was awesome to see. Great to see. Representing out east. Way to go.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Modus. Ash.
Yeah, Modus. Claim to fame is going to be their snagger tool, as we always say.
For now.
But man, the old product lineup's just expanding. We were joking before we started to record here that now we have a group chat going with Modus there, and Paul's always texting us, and we're texting back, and we're all busy people, and you might put your phone down for an hour, and you come back to 90 texts. You're like, Jesus, I can't go back and read all this.
And sometimes the products went from like initial phase to the almost the finished phase, and it was 90 texts.
Yeah, right.
What if we have that? What if we do that? What if we have this thing?
Right?
Do that.
But I mean, we are super, super thankful to be, working alongside with those guys. Awesome team, awesome group, amazing products, really cool stuff coming. So yeah, I mean, like I say, the snagger is going to be the big thing for hose handling, but they've got their soft entry kit, their force entry wedges, a bunch of their textiles.
Their plate carriers.
They got the plate carriers.
That's what we were using for Rescue Task Force.
Yeah. So I think we did we tease some photos of that yet, or
Rescue Task Force? Well, we posted it on our Facebook.
That's right.
Yeah. So the gear, the armor that the guys are wearing in those pictures are the Modus plate carrier.
Yeah. So awesome. So they got their X line of the Auto X gloves coming there. So we're all rocking those. I was rocking it. I was doing water tender ops for the dump fire, which is super lame, but I mean, if you don't have water, it's a bad deal. So
We burn a lot of water in that
we burned
dumpster.
a lot of water. We actually got some props for we dropped 2 bladders and had them full, like too sweet. So
Yeah.
keep the water flowing there is great. And I was rocking the X Clubs there.
Yeah.
The
Yes,
entire
I am
time,
on
so.
to you.
Awesome.
Yeah, so check them out online there. Use discount code DTFF5 for 5% off your order.
Awesome. And of course, tonight we're fueled by Wolf Tree Coffee. Scott?
Yeah, the initial attack blend, Wolf Tree Coffee's at Oliver. They are shipping.
They are shipping.
So they're shipping now. Check them out on wolftree.ca.
Yeah, I think wolftreecoffee.ca.
Yeah. Just the Wolf Tree Coffee Oliver. There's only one of them in Oliver.
Yeah.
So
Google will get you there.
yeah, but the I think it's $2 from every pound they sell of our initial attack blend goes to the Honor House, which is basically a free place to stay when you're down doing some medical stuff in the coast for first responders and military law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's great, really good coffee.
Yes.
Yeah, check out
Made by experts.
Yeah, all their blends are fantastic. Of course, we're partial to the initial attack blend.
Yeah.
And again, like the $2 goes to Honor House. Honor House is a fabulous society that helps first responders in need. So, yeah. And then Tanner Olson.
Yeah, Tanner, they're busily making some. Is that word?
Word now.
They're making some new music. They've been writing a lot lately. They kind of teased one on their Instagrams recently. I don't know the name of the song.
Like thinking about you or something.
I don't know.
I know.
Isn't that like, been thinking about you? Isn't that song?
Sorry, how does that go?
Go on, sorry.
I can't sing anymore because then we'd lose our YouTube because it's so accurate. They'd shut us down. Anyways, look for some new music coming from them in August.
Not from us.
Yeah. Other than that, you can check them out on Spotify for their current music.
Yeah. Excellent. And then of course you have us. So you can find us on Facebook. And on the Facebook now it's just the DTFF.
Yeah.
We've
Identified Fire.
Identified Fire. So we've shut
Black
down.
label, not orange label.
Yeah, Black Label, not Orange Label. That's the big one. Because we're shutting down the other Facebook site. And of course, Instagram and TikTok and YouTube.
Yeah.
So yeah, please give us a like, give us a follow. Appreciate all the support in the comments people are sending us. And again, those shirts.
Yeah, I remember we didn't shout out, even though we talked about it. Stopping all the bleeding.
Oh, geez. Even haven't talked about it.
Well, we did talk about stopping the bleed, so stopthebleed.org.ca. Check it out. Use tourniquets. If you're going to use a tourniquet, use a good one. 3 methods are wound packing, direct pressure, and tourniquet application, not necessarily in that order. Like we were saying, we've done it a lot recently, probably so much that we forgot to shut it up tonight. But yeah, it's definitely a major part of that Rescue Task Force Asher event. And even if you're just chainsawing or playing in the woods or any of that kind of stuff. So
yeah, make sure you carry a trinket.
Yeah.
Actually on that as well. So I've got now a tourniquet on my chest rig for forestry as well.
Nice.
It's pretty important. We can get into a pretty shitty situation quickly.
Sure.
So make sure you have them. All right, that is it for me. Ash, any more?
No. I was going to make a smart ass comment about structure fires on Canada Day.
What?
Oh,
my God. Smoker? Yeah. Oh, we got to see some fire science.
We did.
yeah, it was a little bit of a back of the trigger and poof.
Like,
I was just getting my phone ready to videotape it when that thing blew out. I was like, oh, God, it wasn't eyebrow, but
Smoker's supposed to smoke that much? No, that's a little heavy.
smoke's pretty turbulent.
yeah, I just said that, didn't I? I was like, boom!
That's great.
Busted out the old garden hose to put that fire out.
That's true. Little fog pattern to start with.
Exactly, right?
Approach with a straight stream. Oh, it's beautiful.
Oh, man. Thank God you didn't get that on video. Anyways, thanks for listening, everybody. As always, stay safe, stay GTFF.
Right.
Good night.